Yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of the Music Dreams USA Radio Artist Spotlight. And do we have a treat for you today? We are being brought to you by Vox Sports and also Football Fanatics and Music Dreams USA Radio, your home for the best mix of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and country with some top hits and Christian classics. On our show today, we have Mr. Steve Folson. He is the original bassist and founder, along with Ann and Nancy Wilson. The group, you've guessed it, it's Heart. And they're going to be joining us live here. Well, Steve will be joining us live here in just a few moments. And to the right hand side of our stream, it gives you an opportunity to write down any questions or comments during our interview. And I'll be more than happy to ask those questions to Steve while he's live with us here on Music Dreams USA Radio. We are broadcasting live on all of our social media outlets. No matter what outlet you're on, you can find us. You can also find this interview. Immediately after this interview, we're going to download the interview and we're going to post it on all of our social media outlets. So if you don't have the opportunity to watch the interview right now, you will have the opportunity shortly thereafter. So without any further ado delay, let's go live now and meet our special guest. All right. Hello, friends, and welcome. We are coming to you live from our Niagara Falls studios in Niagara Falls, New York. And we got him, the man, the legend. He is here. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Steve Folson. He is from Heart, and we are super excited to have him here on the show this evening. And Steve, thank you so much for taking time out to be here on the Music Dreams Artist Spotlight. So how you doing today? You doing okay?
Well, first of all, thank you, Russell. But yeah, I'm doing great today. I've had a great day so far. My wife and I, Summer, we book Heart by Heart, which is our band that we have now. And we've been on the phone all morning lining up gigs.
Wow. So how's that going for you right now? I mean, I know you guys are probably super busy right now and, getting ready to book a lot of those gigs right now. So how's that looking for you?
Really good. Yeah, really good. We last year was our best year so far, and we hope that this year surpasses last year, which would be nice. But we'll take what we can get, and we enjoy playing a lot in Washington State, which is where we're from, but we also play a lot around the country. And next month we're going to Montalvo Arts Center in California. And we're looking forward to that. And then this month, April, we have a gig every weekend here in Washington State.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So let's talk about the group. I want to kick off our interview with Heart. I mean, obviously, a lot of people know that you were one of the founders along with Ann and Nancy Wilson, and you guys formed the group Heart, which turned into be a perennial superstar band. You guys found success early and often, and you traveled and your music just touched millions and millions of people. Can you kind of like walk us through that the very beginning, how that all started for you, and how did you handle the success? I mean, from what I read up, I mean, it came quick and often for you.
Well, the thing of it is, it was Roger Fisher and I who actually started the band when we were in high school. In should I dare I say it, 1967. And we had been friends for a few years before that, and when we decided to make a band after we had been friends for 3 years, and then we both got instruments, and we spent the next 2 years learning our instruments, and then after that we decided to make a band. We shook on it and we said, hey, we're not giving up until we make the big time. So the band was called the Army at first, and then a year later we changed it to White Heart, and a year after that, in 1969, we shortened it to Heart, and then we played around for a few years after that, and then in 1971 is when we met Ann Wilson, and Nancy wasn't in the picture then because she was going to college, and Roger Fisher and I and Ann, we had a cover band and we played around a lot, and then we ended up wanting to emigrate to Canada, which we ended up doing, and we wanted the rest of the band to go with us, but they declined. So it was just Ann, Roger, and I that went to Canada, and we hired a couple of Canadian musicians, and we started a band up there. And of course, we called it Heart. And we it wasn't too long before Heart was one of the biggest bands in the Vancouver, British Columbia area. And we played around for 2-3 years, playing a lot of clubs and touring around British Columbia and Alberta. And then we came to the attentions of Mushroom Records, Mike Flicker, and we did a demo for them, and they decided to give us back us for an album, and that album turned out to be Dreamboat Annie. And then once we finished up Dreamboat Annie, during the recording of Dreamboat Annie, we actually found Mike DeRozier on drums, and we asked Howard Leese, who was a studio musician at Mushroom Records at the time, to join our band also. And in the meantime, in 1974, Nancy had finished college and was now part of the group too. So that was the 6 people that made all the magic happen. Magic.
Yes, it was magic. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I remember when I was DJing, right? And we kind of talked about this on the phone. When I first broke into DJing, one of my first albums was listening to Heart and Barracuda, the song Barracuda. That's one of my favorite songs. And I can remember DJing at the club. Now I'd always play that song. And so, just to have the opportunity now to meet the man, the legend, to do the interview. Wow. I mean, it just, it comes around in full circle, does it not? And, here we are on the radio station and have the opportunity to interview you. But my next question is this. Now that you kind of gave us, the rundown of how Heart started and where it is right now, is there an opportunity maybe where maybe your band, and I know that Ann and Nancy Wilson, they have their band as well. Is there an opportunity down the line that maybe y'all maybe get together one time and maybe play again together? What does that look like?
Well, I don't know if you know about it, but Ann and Nancy had a tiffle.
Oh.
Tiffle. So they actually both have their own bands right now.
Right.
And we tried to have a reunion this year that was going to actually take place in Vancouver, British Columbia, but it just fell apart. And it just doesn't look like Ann and Nancy will ever be playing together again. And it would, we could just join Ann for a reunion thing, or we just could have joined Ann for a reunion thing, but it wouldn't have been right. And it's probably better for the memories of Heart to remain like they were, instead of trying to do a reunion without, Nancy being there too.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so here comes, we're going to take a few moments here, and we got some questions from our listeners, and they're super excited. And this first question comes from Dan. And guess what? He's from Vancouver, Washington, believe it or not. I love it.
All right.
See, it was just meant to be. So get ready. Here we go. He goes, his question is, what was your first experience with music?
Well, my parents, we had a little phono, record player. It was actually, we had a TV on top and the record player on the bottom. And my sister and my mom and dad would always sleep in, and so my sister and I we'd pull out the drawer that had the turntable on it, and we played records, and we used to just love all the records that my parents had. And one of the songs that really comes to mind is the Yellow Rose of Texas. They had that on, and we used to listen to that a lot. And one thing led to another, and then my mom, she got me and my sister lessons playing Hawaiian guitar, which, that's the kind of guitar you sit on your lap and you play with a steel bar. And anyway, so we did that for a while, and then I started playing the trumpet. And then after that, I thought to myself, well, I want to be in a rock band, and I don't know how trumpets are going to fit in a rock band. So I put down the trumpet and kept my eyes open. And then when the Beatles came out, I loved Paul McCartney. and I found out he was the bass player. So then that's when I decided I wanted to be a bass player.
Wow, that's awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Now here comes from Stephanie. She's in the Sunshine State, Jacksonville, Florida, and she wanted me to say, "Steve, I love you." And she has a question, but she wanted me to give you this comment. She goes, "Steve, I love you, and I love Heart, and I just love watching you. And I'm sad that that band broke up, but maybe one day they'll get back together. But I love you. You're one of my favorite bassist players." And here's her question: who are
Okay.
your musical influences and why?
Okay. Well, I already said one. The big one was Paul McCartney on the bass, of course. As far as bass goes, it was Paul McCartney, Bill Wyman of the Stones, and John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, and then Chris Squire of Yes. Those are the big four for me. And but I was really highly influenced by, when I was younger, by the Everly Brothers, the two-part harmonies, Roy Orbison, of course, Elvis, Ricky Nelson, and also a lot of the girl groups at the time, Leslie Gore and Chiffons and Ronnie Spector and all that kind of stuff. And I just loved music. And back in the day, if you remember those old cars, they had the sheet metal dashboards, right?
Oh yeah, I do.
And they had a great big 6x9 speakers, you know, screwed into that dashboard. And the radios back then were all tube because they hadn't invented transistors yet. And I'm telling you, the bass sounded so great in those old cars with the sheet metal dashboards and the big speaker and everything, and the tube radios. So I just was really inspired by the bass, and I just loved how the bass made the music just move along. Bass and drums, basically. So I was really inspired by that when I was young.
Awesome. This next question comes from Niagara Falls, New York.
Wait a second. What was her
Oh,
name?
her name is actually she goes by Nancy, I think. Is she saying her name's Nancy? And she's from Florida. She's from around the Jacksonville area, Jacksonville,
Okay. Well,
Florida.
thank you, Nancy. That was very nice of you to say what you said. Thank you.
Yes. All right, our next one, David Florio. He's from Niagara Falls, New York. One of the seven wonders of the world. Did you know that? If you didn't, you don't know, right? All right. His question is, what has been your biggest career highlight so far? What is it and why?
Well, I mean, in the days that I was in Heart, I mean, every day was especially in 1976 and 77. Every day was the best day ever. After that, but because we did some great shows. We did Cal Jam 2. We played, the Dallas Cotton Bowl with thousands and thousands of people. We did all these great outdoor shows and concerts and festivals. So that was, all those were really great and really fun, and all the touring we did, and all the like we played in all the famous uh, buildings that you see sports being played in today, and back then it was a little different because it was obviously a different decade, but I got to say that one of the biggest thrills was the day that I found out I was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah. And and
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. But
Mm.
and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame didn't even exist when we were at that time. It didn't exist until 1987, and so we had already been popular act for 12 years before that. So I don't know. It was just a great cherry on the top of what we'd been doing. What we thought we had accomplished all those years. So it was a great thrill. And then at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you know, the night we were inducted, it was such a great night, and all these stars and everything, and musical icons and heroes and everything were there. And since then, Summer, who is my wife, and she's also the lead singer in Heart by Heart, we make it a point to try to make all the inductions. So we've made quite a few since then. And we've know a lot of people at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we understand that they're a great group of people. I know some people have some issues with who gets inducted and who's not, but if once you know the people that work there, they're people that are honestly so in love with rock and roll, and they're trying to do the best job they can, but they can't please everybody, obviously. But we have found they're the greatest people to deal with, and they're very kind to Summer and I, and they would be to Mike too if he'd ever want care to go back there. But we're that was, I mean, yeah, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I have a question about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, in your opinion, what band do you think that's not inducted at this point into the Hall of Fame? In your opinion, who do you think maybe should be in there at this point?
Well, my buddy who was in Heart, Howard Leese, he spent many years touring and playing with Paul Rogers and Bad Company, and that's that. If you listen to the Bad Company's material and you listen to how accomplished Paul Rogers was as a singer and how catchy their songs were and how popular their songs are, I would think that they would be someone that deserves serious consideration, soon.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, back to the listeners page. Again, we are live right now in our Niagara Falls studios, and we are so excited to have Mr. Steve Felson, the original founder and bassist of the group Heart. And he's with us live, and we are right now taking questions from our listeners. And we have listeners all over the place, and they're super excited, and we're super excited to have Steve with us here live.
Me too.
And,
but Steve, hey, Russell.
Yeah.
You actually pronounced my name Fossen.
Fossen. Okay. I apologize.
That's okay.
Yep.
We should have gone over that before, but I didn't know. But anyway, it's Fossen, like the faucet.
Okay. Fossen.
Norwegian.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I love it. And one of the things that I love about doing the interviews, you can learn live on the interviews. You guys learn something new on the interviews, right?
Yeah.
So I got to tell you a funny story. So before we get back to our listeners, right, I had the opportunity to interview the Harlem Globetrotters, right? And we were doing a live celebrity golf tournament up in the Carolinas, and we had the Harlem Globetrotters there, right? And so we started talking to them and everything, and the one guy starts singing. I'm like, hey, we're live on the radio. You want to do some songs? He's like, what you got? I go, well, why don't we do some Temptations? He grabbed the mic from me, right? And we're in front of thousands of people, right? He grabs my microphone. He starts ad-libbing My Girl to the Temptations. I'm like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. The place went nuts. So I just wanted to throw that in there for you.
I bet he was good too.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, the people loved them, and they continue to listen to our shows. So we must have been doing something right. All right. Now, this next question, her name, you're going to love this one, right? Her name is DJ Patty C. And she does our Memories 80s show on Music Dreams USA Radio. And so if you like the 80s, like I know you do, she plays some really cool 80s music, and she's DJ Patty C. And she says, Steve, it's so nice to meet you. I'm from Peru. And even though up in Peru, we love your music. We love you. So, and here's her question.
Thanks.
She goes, with the music today, compared to yesterday when you first broke into music, compared to as what it is today, what are maybe one or two things that you would change? What would they be and why?
Changed for, I don't know if she means change today or change back then.
Well, what she's referring to is like the music that was back then compared to the music that is right now today. Is there anything that you would change in the music industry? If so, what would it be and why?
Well, I'm super happy with how well Heart, has been accepted by classic radio and fans till to this day. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of streams that Heart music gets and downloads and everything. It's just astounding. And so I don't know if I could change, if I wouldn't change that, because it's doing so well that it's like, I love it. And I was just talking with Mike DeRozier this morning about that. And the only thing maybe that I would change, or I would go back when CDs were kind of on, they were really popular for a while, and then all of a sudden people started expecting to get music for free. And do you remember that era?
Oh yes, I
Yeah.
remember when I got into DJing, we actually had the CD players. I remember that loud and clear. More
So
than I clear to admit.
so I would hope that, and it seemed like the record companies were a little tardy in kind of catching up with where the public was at that point in history. And I think that they were kind of relying on an old formula back then. But since then, they've really corrected it. So good for them. But at the same time, I would have wished that they had been a little more aware and more forward thinking at the time when that all was happening. And but it all worked out great anyway. So happy, I'm happy for the record companies. I'm happy for Heart, and all the bands that are still doing well that were from that era.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing, isn't it? I mean, a lot of your 1980s bands. I mean, you've got Heart, you've got Bon Jovi, you've got Def Leppard, I mean, and the list goes on and on and on. Night Ranger, Loverboy. I mean, and all those bands are still touring today. And one thing that's really got me, to be honest with you, even though like the younger crowd, they love the older music. And I mean, to me, that's just like totally blows me away. Where a lot of your younger crowd, they like the old school music, if you will. And what are your thoughts about that comment?
Well, you know, back then, the musicians were very, very in tune with trying how to make music that lasted, and what that entails is having a good song, a great recording, and you know everything just being as good as it could possibly be. And back then, the bands were every band was different. I think the one thing about the music that's popular nowadays, it's kind of, I'm not putting down today's music, because there are some great artists out there that do fantastic things, who are just so in tune with all the technology and everything. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying that some things that come out in this era are a little cookie cutter, where it sounds like they're using like similar musicians that do play things in a similar way. Well, back when we were kids, it was all about diversity. I mean, there was, we liked everything from Beatles and Led Zeppelin to the 1910 Fruit Gum Company. All these bands had hits, and they were all different, and everybody had a little niche they could fill that was fun. So I don't know. It's a little different nowadays in that respect, but I think it's coming around. I think that people are kind of going, well, I want to hear some different stuff now, and it doesn't necessarily have to be guitar, keyboard based like our era, but and one thing about today's music is the bass. It's just so wonderful, so wonderful, and they've done amazing things with the bass frequencies and playing and everything. So I have no complaints with that. I'm really proud of I'm really proud of my fellow human beings for coming up with all this fantastic stuff. It's really great.
Awesome. All right, let's get back into some more of our questions from the listeners. This one comes from actually, this is DJ Tim Clifton, and he's actually does our afternoon drive here on Music Dreams USA Radio.
All
And
right.
he wanted me to say, it's a pleasure to play your music. It's an honor, and thank you so much for sharing some great music and some great memories. And we are so excited to have you here on the Music Dreams USA listeners page. So that's from DJ Tim Clifton. He couldn't be with us tonight because he's actually out doing another event. So we kicked him out of the studios and we had him, do something for Music Dreams USA Radio. But
All
his
right. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim.
so he wants. So can you say hello to Tim for? Can you say hello to him for us right now?
Tim, you're the man. You're the man. Thank you.
Here's his question. All right. So when you get ready to go on stage for a big concert, do you have any pre-show rituals? If you do, what are they? And are they family orientated?
Well, every gig is different. Every dressing room is different. Every situation is different. Sometimes you're in more of a hurry than other times. Sometimes you're more laid back. So it's every time there's a different thing going on. But I don't have a specific thing that I need to do. Other than make sure that there's no lettuce or spinach in my tooth or anything. So I don't know. We like to hang out backstage. One thing we do, what we like to do is Lizzie gets her acoustic guitar out, and we sing songs acoustically to get into the vibe a little bit. And I don't know. One thing we don't do is alcohol.
Really?
Yeah, we don't. We have kind of a little rule in our band that we don't really partake before the show until the encore, and then after the show, all bets are off.
All right. So here's the question I have. Let's talk a little bit now. Let's move now and talk about your band where you are today. Obviously, you're still playing the heart music. Are you working on any new songs, or do you have like a new album coming out? What does that look like for the band right now?
Well, we, especially Summer and I, we work with with a songwriter in LA. I don't know if I should say her name or not, but anyway, we work with her, and we're super proud of the stuff we do together. And it's just, and we'd like to make some recordings and everything. And we have some offers and some ways to do it, but it's just hard to get everybody on board. But Summer and I are really into it.
Awesome. And now this next question comes from Travis D. He's actually up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And his question is, how do you balance maintaining your privacy and living in the public eye? Oh, that's a good question. I like that one.
Well, okay. So I usually around in my neighborhood, and Summer and I, when we go shopping and stuff like that, we don't like wear a red cape and wear a crown on our head or anything. I mean, we look we're very normal people. I like clothes that are, I used to be, about 10 years ago, I did a lot of mountaineering. So I really like mountain type clothes, like from North Face or Arc'teryx or Marmot or something like that. So I like those puffy jackets and the nice pants and shirts and stuff that are not cotton, because cotton is not really good in the mountains, but it really works around here because we live in Seattle and there's a lot of rain. So I don't know. And then, and of course, all the people at my local store, they all know who I am, but they don't make a big deal out of it. And, but they will say hi and how, they ask me questions about, this or that or the other. Hey, what's your favorite band now? And, it's all very friendly. And I was lucky enough to be, like all I have to do is mention my name and my pedigree. People know exactly who I am, but I can be anonymous too. Like I do have some very nice, very dark sunglasses, and I can wear a hat and, and be incognito, so to speak.
Here's the question I have. Let's talk about the music industry as a whole. You know, let's kind of like talk about a band just starting out and they got the love and passion, just like you guys did when you first started your band, right? So we have a similar band just like that. They also have the love and passion. Why is it so hard for people to get to your plateau in the music industry? What I mean, what are some maybe what is some advice you can give them to maybe one day they can stand in your shoes?
Well, you have to realize that the love and the passion and the hard work you have to do. You have to be there. You have to work at it hard. But it also takes a lot of luck, and it also takes a bunch of people that are with you that have that same drive and ambition. And we were lucky enough when Roger and I came and joined forces with Ann. She was just as driven and ambitious as we were, and it was kind of, I got to admit, it was hard to find people that were that driven and ambitious. And because I mean, there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make along the way, and quite frankly, I don't know of too many people that would have made the same sacrifices that we made to keep the thing going. And I mean, sometimes I look back and I say, why did we even stay together? It was so pathetic at the time, but we somehow just kept that faith, alive, and we just kept working hard at it, and we never let down, and we kept our nose to the grindstone, and we didn't party like rock stars until we were rock stars.
Mhm. And you
Get
were
it?
rock stars.
Get it? I mean, I know plenty of people that were really super talented musicians and artists and had great songs and everything, but they sacrificed their career because they didn't stay on it hard enough and long enough to get over that hump.
I like that point because I would agree to you with you, I should say. You know, there are some bands, as you mentioned, they got the love, the passion, and the drive. And if things don't go their way, it just seems like they give up and they're like, well, maybe this isn't meant to be. And they kind of like call it the end of the day, if you will. But it's bands like you, where you, as you just mentioned, right, in the interview here, where you sacrificed and you went the extra mile and you did what you had to do to get where you are today. And so my next question is, with the music industry and the record label and the record sharing and all that stuff, I mean, you know, what are your thoughts about that? I mean, I hear a lot of different, stories about that. So what is your take on that?
Well, we were pretty lucky back in the day. When we signed with Mushroom, they were really good to us at first, and they really brought us along, and they really helped out with the tour support, and when when we were lucky enough to be able to open up for somebody, say in Philadelphia, the record company made sure that there was plenty of albums in the stores in Philadelphia. So they did a great job in that respect. But at the same time, they were kind of uh, they didn't really follow the exact contract that we signed as far as paying us.
Uh-oh.
So we had to part ways with Mushroom Records, but we ended up signing with Sony, which is a division of Capitol at the time. Or well, we signed with Portrait Records, which was a division of Capitol or Columbia Records at the time, and then Columbia Records was actually bought by Sony, which is the company now that we deal with. But they were a big company, and they understood that artists are very important to their well-being. So they treated us really nice, and they still treat us really nice, and we're really happy with everything that they've done for us over the years. Uh, and I don't know if record companies are like that anymore. Because I think, don't a lot of the artists have their own record companies,
They
and
do.
they kind of
You're
bypass,
100% correct. Yes.
So we never had that luxury, if it is a luxury, I don't know. But the Sony and Capitol and Mushroom, in their own way, were really good to us, after we proved that we were, deserving of respect.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. I mean, even if you look at radio today, right? You have terrestrial radio station. You also have internet radio station, which we are. We're an internet streaming radio station. And I think the difference is, I mean, we have like a worldwide listening audience where we can broadcast anywhere, anytime, any place. Where a terrestrial radio station, they only have a market that they can go into. And it's kind of like the same thing with you just mentioned with the record labels, with the music, the artists now. It seems like every artist now, every big name artist has their own record label. I mean, why do you think that is?
Well, if you own the record company and you pay for the recording, you pay for the printing, you pay for the advertising, you pay for whatever, then you get actually 100% of the profits back. And back when we were, doing our thing, I mean, it was just a fact that record companies, they did all this for you and they took a share, which was fine. I mean, I'm not complaining. They deserved everything they got, but that share now, if you own the record company, it just stays with you.
Gotcha. All right, let's switch gears. We have another question now. And let's see. This question is from, oh my God, my daughter is watching right now.
All right.
Her name is Courtney. Can you say
Hey,
hello to Courtney for me? Please say hello to Courtney. Else I won't hear the end of the day.
How you doing?
All right. She says, do readers and listeners take away different things from your songs than you intended? If so, what do you think your songs are about? Oh, she must have learned that one from me.
That's hard to answer, but that's for sure. I mean, everybody that listens to a song and listens to the words and makes the connection between the words and the phrases and the everything that's going on in the song, everybody has their own interpretation of what it means. And the artist has their interpretation and fans have their interpretation, but most things that especially big acts have is they kind of, everything they come up with is kind of has a universal appeal that, and it's great that it means this to that person and this to this other person, and it's great that it means this to the artist too. So you just try to do something that's honest and true from the heart, no pun intended, or pun intended. Anyway, so
I like that one.
yeah. So I mean, and I think that's where people get the connection is if it comes from your heart, they can tell, and it goes into their heart, and how they interpret it is up to them, which is fine, which is how it should be.
How does your music, so when you're actually in the studio putting together music and everything, what does your songwriting look like? And I know like some artists, they have like a computer, it has like all the words and everything. And then what they do is they kind of like mix and match the words. They kind of put it behind a beat. Then you got some artists that actually write from personal experiences. What does your songwriting look like, and how does it come together for you?
Well, our songwriting was, the chief songwriters were, of course, Ann and Nancy, and they would get together and they would come up with, a basic chord structure and some words and stuff. And believe it or not, back then, they did not have computers or smartphones. And I know that was a joke, but anyway,
I like that.
and so I mean, and we'd all sit around in the studio and we'd learn the chords, the chord structure, and the basic arrangement, and then especially we would just get together and we'd work on the arrangement and try to make it interesting for the bass and for the drums and for the guitar parts and everything. So that we put little design elements in all the songs to make them unique in their own, in that way. And then that would in turn inspire Ann and Nancy to take that what they came up with up to another level too. And so we would just keep going like this until we got to a point, and then Mike Flicker would come in and say, okay, that's it, let's record it. And that's what happened.
Wow. And so now that we're on the subject of songwriting, are there any, let's take a trip back into time with Heart. Are there any what are maybe like one, two, or three of your favorite songs that maybe you still they're still your favorite state? Which songs are they, and why would they be your favorites?
Gosh, I mean, well, Heart by Heart, we play a, an extensive list of Heart songs, and I mean, I pretty much like them all. I mean, Magic Man, for me, that was the very first song that I recorded for the album Dreamboat Annie. It's one of the songs that got us recognized across Canada and across America and around the world as our first song. And to this day, it's still one of the highest testing radio songs in history. Do you know what that is?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. I know exactly what that is. It's a song where they test the market, and it depends on like how many listeners are listening to that song, and
Right.
it depends on how many people are listening to it, and depending if it's the higher the better, and if it's a higher thing, then they're going to go roll with it.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and what it also means is that once they start listening to it, they don't turn the channel. They keep listening right to the end, and
Right.
that's what that means too. Also, and then "Crazy on You." I mean, that's a fantastic song too. That I love playing. I love my bass part. I love the way it sounds. I love the part that I came up with. And but I'm not saying that, oh, I did this, I did that. It's just because when you're a bass player, you come up with the part that you have to fit your part into the guitar part, the drum part, the keyboard part, the vocal part, and it's got to fit in just perfectly, and not step on the vocal and not step on the guitar part and not obscure the drums, unless that's what you want to do, but that's not what I wanted to do. You had to come up with a part that fit in, that did what it was supposed to do, but didn't get in the way. And that was my goal the whole time I was recording with Heart.
Wow, that's awesome. Here comes another question for you, Steve. Was there ever a time when you thought about quitting music altogether, and why?
Well, once you're a musician, I don't think you can ever really quit music altogether. I mean, even if you quit playing live or quit playing in your band, or you're going to have your guitar sitting in the corner and you're going to look at it every once in a while and pick it up and play it. I mean, I don't care who you are, that's going to happen. And me personally, I can't imagine me not playing. I mean, there's been times when I've been more focused on other things besides music and not played as much as I did in the past, or as I play now. But I was once a musician, always a musician, as far as I'm concerned. And and I was lucky enough to take my my career to a certain point where people kind of expect me to do something. So I enjoy it. We go to places nowadays, and we try to play the Heart songs in such a way that's going to create nostalgia. Well, you do that by sticking to the original key, the original arrangement, the original tempo, and all that kind of stuff, so that people, when they hear us play it, they remember the first time they heard it back when they were younger. And we've had grown men come up to us with tears in their eyes saying, "Thank you for doing that. That sounded so great. Really brought back the memories." And that's exactly what we want to do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. All right, and here comes the questions as they continue. What other instruments do you play?
Uh, well, I, I've over the course of the years, I mean, I can keep a beat on the drums. I can play rhythm guitar. At one time, I could play lead guitar, and I can peck out a melody and some chords on piano. Once you're a musician and someone hands you an instrument, it doesn't take long before you can figure, even if it's a flute or a clarinet or a trombone or a trumpet, you're going to find a way to make a melody out of it. So I don't know. I've played, just hand me an instrument and I'll see what I can do.
I love it. I can share this with you. I always wanted to learn how to play the drums, believe it or not. For some reason, when I go to see a band, I love the drummer. I mean, with the drummer, they kind of keep the band together, if you will. They kind of keep everything in coercion, if you want. But I just love the band and just the energy and everything. It's like I always wanted to learn how to be a drummer. Maybe one day when I catch up, you maybe give me some pointers, huh?
Well, the thing of it is, it's every, like, this hand's doing this hand's doing that, this hand's doing this foot's doing something out, that foot's doing something, and you're hitting cymbals and and one thing about our drummer Mike DeRozier, he's been playing drums most of his life. He started off when he was in elementary school playing in the school band, and he went all through junior high and high school playing in the school band, and then college too. So he did all the pep rallies on drums, and he did plays and pep rallies and all that kind of stuff. And so he's really good and he really knows his stuff. But we always insist that Mike has to have a drum riser so that everybody in the audience can see what he's doing. Because when the drummer hits the cymbal with the big crash, everybody knows where that one is or whatever, where the emphasis is on that beat. And they really feel that, that energy, and that's what keeps the band tight and together, and everybody in the band, it's on beat with the drummers, and it's just, yeah, drums are one of the coolest instruments. But we used to make fun of Mike because we'd say, like, well, cavemen could get a couple of sticks and a hollow log and start beating on it.
I love that one. That was good. Guess what? We have a question from Alberta in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hi.
See, I tell you,
I've been
Music
there.
Dreams USA Radio, we're all over the place, Steve.
I've been there.
I tell you.
What city?
She's saying Vancouver. Is that Alberta? Or is it Calgary?
Calgary is.
Yeah, Calgary.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep, she's from Calgary. All right, so let's see. She actually has a few questions here, but because of respectful of your time here, we're going to just pick one good one for you. All right. All right. Well, actually, we'll give you two because I like both of them. Here's her first question. How does a band remember how to play all the songs and sing all the songs? How do they remember all the words to all those songs? I mean, in a band, you're playing many different songs. Are there any tricks or anything you guys use to remember, like all the words to the songs? And if so, have you ever made a mistake, and how do you cover up that mistake?
Well, that's what rehearsals are for. And in the era that I came up through the ranks of musicians and stuff, most of the musicians that I was around and that I knew at the time, they would rehearse, they would memorize the lyrics, they'd memorize their part, and through rehearsal, it would ingrain in your brain. And that's just something you learn. Just like an actor learning the lines to their play or their movie or whatever. It's just something that you train your brain to do. And, it's not easy, but it is something that you can train your brain to do, is memorize all that stuff, and it kind of compartmentalizes in, this song is here and this song is here, and you know what I mean.
Mhm.
So uh, so you can switch gears. Like sometimes when I listen to music, a band will play a song at this tempo and this kind of a groove, and then the next song will be totally different. I think, well, how do they switch gears like that? Well, I do it all the time, so I don't know how I do it. We just do it. We just know what's supposed to go on in the song, and so we do it. And then when you do make a mistake, um, what what I do if I make a big mistake is I look at somebody else in the band. I go, oh well, I made a mistake. I mean, you can't. Most people don't pay that close attention, and if they heard a little off note, or unless it's so bad that the band the whole music stops and everybody what went on, which that does happen occasionally, but not. I think it's happened like I don't think it's really happened at once in my career, but I've seen other people do it, and you just it's we're all human. Humans make mistakes, and um, 99% of the time we get it right, but sometimes there's a little glitch, and you just kind of, if somebody else in the band makes a mistake, I just look at them, give them a little smile, and just move on, because what do you do? I mean, you can't really sit there and throw down your instrument and say, "Pay attention, come on."
Well,
I mean,
the thing is, like, I make mistakes all the time, and my boss still allows me to do these interviews. So hopefully, after this interview, I'll still have my job. So I'm gonna need you to give me some high marks after this job, Steve, because it's like I need some money to get home for gas. So,
you are kidding, are you?
no, I am not. My boss is a stickler on these interviews, man. Because you know what he's gonna do? Once this interview's over, he's gonna pull up this interview. He's gonna critique me on this interview. He's gonna say, "What could you have done differently? What would you have said differently?" And so on and so forth. But he's a cool
Oh,
guy, though. He's a cool guy. Yeah.
you know who else is a stickler? I've heard.
Who's that?
I won't even say, but there's some musicians in bands that they they are so intent on everything being perfect, and you just call them sticklers, which is great. I mean, I'm not going to knock success. I will never knock success, and if it works for somebody to be a stickler, that's great. I'd like to be a stickler, but I think I'm too. I My personality is not stickler like.
I love your personality, man. I'm having fun on this interview, man. We're having a great time, and thank you so much. And we're coming to you live from our Niagara Falls studios again. We have Mr. Steve Folsom with us right now. And
Awesome.
Fossum,
Awesome.
Mr. Steve Fossum is with us live, and we're
Yeah,
so glad.
awesome.
Fossum, yes, like the faucet.
It's Norwegian, yeah, and you know what it means in Norwegian? Fossen means in Norwegian waterfall.
Really?
Yes.
And we're in our Niagara Falls. See, this interview is meant to be because we're coming to you live from Niagara Falls, New York.
From the biggest,
waterfall,
most famous waterfall around.
It is. And so let me ask you, let's since I got our listeners from Niagara Falls, I told them I'd give them a little love on this interview, right? So when you think of Niagara Falls, Steve, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what it is. So we were playing somewhere in the Midwest, or maybe it was New York, like in Upper New York, Syracuse, or something like that. And it was a tough gig. It was a long night. We got up super early the next morning and had to catch a plane to get to Chicago or someplace like that. So I get on the plane and I kind of fall asleep. And then the next thing I know, Mike DeRozier's shaking my arm and going, "Hey, Steve, look out the window. There's Niagara Falls." So I go, "Oh yeah, it looks really cool." And then I went right back to sleep.
That's your memory?
That's my memory. But it looked beautiful. I mean, you can see the horseshoe and the water, white water coming over the top, making a big mist and everything else, and it looked really cool. I mean, I can see it in my mind's eye right now.
When I think of Niagara Falls, I think about the guy that walked across the falls from Canada to Niagara Falls. There's two sides, right? You have the Canadian side, you have the American side. And when I think of Niagara Falls, when we opened up our office here, just actually the fall of last year is when we opened up our office here in Niagara Falls. And when we were talking about moving here, my boss and everyone, what do you think about us going to Niagara Falls? I'm like, Niagara Falls? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And the first thing that came to my mind was that guy that walked the tightrope started off on the Canadian side. He walked all the way over to the American side on a little piece of wire. And that just like totally blew my mind where, someone so talented that has the balance to do that. So when I think of Niagara Falls, I always think about that guy that walked, walked the ropes, if you will, and he made it successfully. And then I went on a tour last week with David Florio. One guy's asked you a question, right? And we actually went to the store where the guy was in this like little jet thing, if you want to call it, and he attempted to use this jet thing to go across the falls. Unfortunately, he didn't make it, and it crashed. And there was a guy in the store who actually bought that. So, little fun facts for you for Niagara Falls as we're coming to you live, being brought to you by Football Fanatics and Fox Sports and Music Dreams USA Radio, your home for the best mix of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and country. And so let's talk about Heart now. Obviously, there's a lot of people watching now, a lot of people that will be watching later on, and questions from all over. So, what message would you like to share with all your fans that love the group Heart? What would you say to them right now?
Oh, I would say, hey, thank you guys so much for being, hardcore fans all these years. Heart is still a staple of classic radio all around the world, basically. And all the fans that saw us back in the day and come out to see Heart by Heart nowadays. And on Facebook, everybody sees a picture of Heart and they all comment on it, and they say how much they love the band, they love the music, and I'm just so glad that we were able to touch so many people in such a big way, and it's very touching for a guy. I mean, I just grew, Roger and we were just kids, in a small town here in Washington State, and we had this big dream. And we said, hey, come on, let's see if we can do this. I mean, we had we had a lot of faith in ourselves and a lot of ambition and everything, but we had, you still, no matter how much ambition you have, you never know if you're going to make it for sure. So actually, I heard from Roger today, and Roger's going to come out and see Mike and I tomorrow night when we play here at a local theater up in Everett. So thank you, fans, for all the love you've given us all these years. I feel it every day. I experience it all the time. I mean, we go out and invariably someone knows who I am, and they come up and they want to shake my hand and congratulate us on being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and all that kind of stuff. And it's very, very gratifying, and it's humbling and everything too. So appreciate it. Thank you.
When you first learned that you were going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, what did you feel at that moment, and how do you feel today, being one of the chosen?
Okay, so back when Summer and I first got together, she was she was in the medical field, and I dropped her off at work, and I was driving back to my house, and and on the radio came "Owner of the Lonely Heart" by Yes, and Alan White is a very good friend of ours, and he was back then, and I was saying, oh, cool, Alan White, "Owner of the Lonely Heart," that's really nice. And then right after the song was over, and he says, and Yes, a local band today was just nominated to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Heart. And I went, what? And I was actually driving a car, and I lost all rational thoughts, and I almost went in the ditch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was that exciting to me. And then and then of course I went home and figured out what a nomination is, not induction. But anyway, and it went, but we did actually get um, nominated and inducted, so that was great.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean,
And then,
I can just imagine that, you get the call, you made it, and something you probably dreamed about for a long time, and it finally had happened, and
yeah,
you got chosen, and here you are today, and so my next question is this. Let's kind of like talk about the bands that we kind of talked about this earlier in the show, but if you had any advice to share with a band, and I'll give an example, right? Her name's Lee Newton, and she's an amazing country singer, and she's from a small city, just like you guys are, but she's from a small city in North Carolina, and she's an amazing singer, and she's come a long way, and her dream is one day to get onto the Grand Ole Opry stage. So, kind of give you like the big picture, if you will. Put yourself in Lee Newton's shoes. How can she get there to make her dream come true?
well, what Heart did back in the day is we played in our, we played around Vancouver and everything, and we developed a big following. So that everywhere we went, it was sold out. We played clubs back then, so we did 4 or 5 sets a
Hmm.
night. We played clubs. It was smoky, a lot of alcohol drinking, a lot of dancing, a lot of carrying on. But it was really fun, and excuse me, I would suggest that you get out and get yourself a fan base and be exciting enough that people want to come and see you over and over and over again. And once you get a big following, a loyal following like that, then other people take notice. People in the industry will take notice, and and it'll open up opportunities for you.
I love it. That's awesome. And as we wind down our interview, um, let's talk about Heart again. And this is a question. Actually, this is one for me for you. So obviously, Heart, an amazing band, right? And you've had amazing experiences, and you've done it all. So, can you maybe pick out maybe one or two memories that live with you even today? Maybe something that you will never forget. What are those memories, and why are they so special to you?
Okay, I got some. I've actually shared this memory before. I got two of them. But the first one is so earlier in the interview, I talked about us playing the Cotton Bowl in Texas. And we played there in the summertime, and it was super, super hot. Van Halen was on the show. I think Nugent, maybe the Cars, Foreigner, and it was super, super hot. And people were, passing out from the heat, and they had to go to all the stores in the area and grab all the water bottles they could and distribute them to the
Hmm.
audience. They actually had hoses, and they were hosing down the audience, and it was just stifling hot, just uncomfortably hot. And so Hart takes the stage, and we were just dreading it because it was so hot. And we get on stage, and we're just so hot and sweaty and uncomfortable. And then we took the stage right at dusk. So pretty soon the lights came on, the stage lights. And back in those days, they were incandescent lights. So when they came on, they provided more heat.
Mm.
So we were up there just suffering away. But we were, we were troopers, we were professionals, and we were doing as good as we could. And it was uncomfortable, but you don't let that get in the way. You know up there doing a job, and your people are counting on you to do good. And so we were doing great. However, it was really hot. So we started Mistral Wind. And the start of Mistral Wind is there's basically the acoustic guitar with guitar sounds, electric guitar sound effects, and maybe some piano. And, 10 seconds into Nancy starting that song, all of a sudden you could feel a little breeze come through the stadium. And as we went further into the intro, the breeze picked up, and you could feel the temperature physically drop at least 5 degrees, and then it dropped like 10 degrees during the beginning of that song. And there was you could hear the audience cheer because finally the winds came through, and and we were playing Mistral Wind. It was magic.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. Want to hear another story?
Oh yeah. Hey, we got time. There's no time when you go to a Music Dreams USA radio artist spotlight. There's no time limits here.
Okay, so like I said earlier in the interview, Magic Man was the very first song that I recorded for the album Dreamboat Annie. And it was also the very first song that I ever heard myself play on the radio on. So we were doing a gig at a club, like I said, that's what we did back then to make money so we could pay our rent and buy basses and stuff. Anyway, so we were told by the record company and management company and all the powers that be, they said, well, tomorrow morning, this certain radio station, we lived in Vancouver, British Columbia at the time, this certain radio station is going to play Magic Man. And I thought, great. Because I don't know about other musicians, but I would think that the first time you hear yourself on the, being played on the radio for thousands and thousands of people, you're going to remember that time. And so I wanted to, experience it. So the next morning I got up bright and early, turned on the radio on that special station that they talked about, and started listening. So I listened all day long. It was, and they played everybody, the Beatles, Stones, Led Zeppelin, all the popular bands at the time, but no Heart. And I thought, well, did I hear it wrong? Was it today or was it some other day or whatever, So I listened all day long, never heard it. And we had to play that night. So and so me being a conscientious musician, I had to take a shower before,
That's
before you go to work, right? So I turned the radio up a little bit. I turned the water on, get it all nice and hot, turn the shower on, get it all going, jump in the shower, get wet from head to toe, and bam, it comes on the radio. So needless to say, I jumped out of the shower. I didn't even bother grabbing a towel. I went out and dripped all over the place and listened to myself on the radio for the very first time, soaking wet and totally naked.
I love it. Oh my God, that's a good one. Okay, well, you're on a roll now, Steve. Come on, let's do the hat trick here. You got 2. Let's go for number 3.
Number 3? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay, here's number 3. This
is the Russell K show. We got to do the hat trick. When you listen to Music Dreams USA Radio, anything happens.
Okay, so this is Mike DeRozier's actual story, but I'm going to tell it because we were just talking about it a couple of days ago. So we were in Japan, and we were opening up for the Beach Boys, and we had done a couple of shows in Tokyo the night before, a couple of days before, or whatever, and we took the bullet train down to Kyoto, and we got there the night before and got up the next morning and went down to the venue and did a nice sound check. It was beautiful sunny day, beautiful, just blue skies, nice and warm, not too hot, just nice little breeze kicking in. So you just felt great. And so the day goes on, and there's other bands playing. So the opening bands were doing their thing and playing and stuff, and we were waiting around to do our show. Finally, it's our show time, and we get on the stage and we did a couple of songs, and then we started this song called "Even It Up." And
I
so,
love that song.
yeah, so that's actually the very first song that Heart by Heart does to open the night now. But anyway, so we just started, and then all of a sudden we're going like, oh, it's kind of windy, and it was looking kind of dark, and all of a sudden it started raining like you wouldn't believe. And this was an outdoor stage, outdoor show, and so it was just raining cats and dogs. And we thought, oh, we've played in the rain before. It's no big deal because we had a cover, right? Well, the cover happened to be a gigantic tarp that was connected to the light trusses that were up there. Well, what happens when rain falls on a tarp?
It gets
Makes
really
it
slippery.
makes a big pool. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden we're looking up there, and the tarp is starting to just stretch down, and we're thinking, well, there's a lot of water sitting up there above us. And so next thing you knew, we saw these stagehands were crawling up on the truss, and they were cutting holes and trying to do strategic cuts in the tarp so that it wouldn't spill right on top of us when we were playing. But they couldn't keep up, and then so next thing we know, we hear this big crack, and and what happened was one of the trusses bent like this and came crashing down. And it was the one that was right over Mike. And it came down and it brushed his head, barely
Oh
brushed
no.
his head. And then it ended up hitting his timpani drum right here, which was right to his left. And his timpani drum, they're mostly metal, made out of metal, and it was strong enough to hold the truss. Otherwise, the truss would have gone right and probably broken both of Mike's legs
Oh wow.
in one fell swoop. So, and of course, all of our gear got soaking wet, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, what just happened?" And uh, so we obviously we had to stop playing, and so we got off stage, and kind of were gathering our wits and all that kind of stuff, and then bam, it was gone, and it was a beautiful sunny day again.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty wild. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have any like big events coming up this year? Some really, really cool things. And well, before we go there, I mean, how can our listeners download your music? Where can they go to download the music that for your band you're playing today on?
Well, Heart by Heart, our CD is available on iTunes and all the platforms out there. We also sell it at our website, which is heartbyheart.com. We also have, of course, merchandise and all that kind of stuff, and you can see where we're playing and when we're playing and all that kind of thing too. And you can see who's in. You can see pictures of the people in the band, and we're proud of our other members. We have Lizzie Damont on guitar and vocals. We have Chad Quist on lead guitar. Summer Masick is our lead vocal. And then we have, of course, Mike DeRozier, original Heart drummer, and Steve Fossen, original Heart bass player.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. And I have a few more questions here for you. All right. So, what was the best advice someone gave you when you were starting as a musician?
Well, starting as a musician, you just kind of you just do what you do, and you kind of learn as you go. But when we finally got to the point where we started playing for bigger audiences, we had a road manager by the name of Dick Adams. He's quite famous as a road manager in the world of rock. He has been for years, and we were doing the Cal Jam 2, which was probably 300,000 people, and and he said something really simple. He said, "Hey, just remember this. You're not paying, you are playing for 300,000 people, but remember this, you're playing for one person at a time." So, which meant to me that, okay, so if you're making this person over here happy, then it's going to translate to making everybody happy. So you don't have to worry about the big crowd so much. Just remember that this person over here, if you're making him happy, everyone's going to be happy. So that was some good advice, to keep your mind off the fact that, you're being watched by 300,000 people. And that's been something that, like when uh, we played the Tonight Show a couple times, and uh, when I was in this band called Alias, and and that was millions of people watching us then. And so I kept that same advice, just like, okay, just do your job and remember that if you're making this guy that's sitting in the audience, 20 feet away from you happy, then that's going to translate to making everybody happy out there in television land too. So it was good advice.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because when I went to the Columbia School of Broadcasting, actually here in Buffalo, I went to Columbia School of Broadcasting. That's where I actually began my broadcasting career. And one of the things they taught us in school was, it doesn't matter how big or how small your group is, pick out one person in the crowd and focus on that person. And as you're focusing on that person, make that person be someone who's very close to you. Maybe it's your mom or your dad or a close friend, right? And when you're performing in front of a large crowd, you focus on that person, and then it just seems like everything will fall into place for you. And I've been doing that for years now, where we do small events, big events, and kind of pick out someone in the crowd and focus on that person, kind of like what you guys are doing right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of funny you said that, so it's pretty cool. All right, so here's another question for you. Flip side now, and this one comes from Kim in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she wants to know, what was some of the worst advice you got in the music industry? How did you overcome that, and what was it?
Wow. Well,
Yeah, I said the same thing myself. Like,
yeah.
that's why you saw me looking twice, right? I'm like, did you see me do that? I'm like, that's the reason why.
Well, hi, Kim. Thanks for the question. I, bad advice. It's hard to remember what the bad advice was. So, Russell, are you still there? It looks like we lost Russell. Maybe you lost me too. But anyway, bad advice. Uh, I don't know.
Here I am.
Yeah, I don't think. I just don't remember people giving me bad advice that I actually paid attention to or really took to heart at all.
Okay.
People were kind to me and they gave me good advice.
Wow. Okay, cool. Well, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here. I apologize, but hey, we got to start the show here, so you know what? You're now in my spot.
I'm the host now.
That's right. Now you can at least hear me, right? So that's good. So as we wind down our interview, is there any final? Is there anything you'd like to say to our fans as we close down our interview today?
Well, I've kind of already said it. I just thank you all for being so involved and loving, music so much. I mean, even if you don't like heart, but you do love music, it's fine with me. But it's the people that love music uh, and care about music that make our industry work. So thank you so much for caring about us as people, musicians as people, and um, the music that we come up. Thanks for caring about that, and thanks for carrying on the torch, so to speak, and turning other people on to the music that you love too. So I don't know. I can't, sometimes I wake up and I can't believe how popular heart music is to this day. And I'm so glad to be part of Heart back then. I'm so glad to be a part of Heart by Heart now, which, that's all we do is we go out there and we promote, and we use heart. We use ourselves to promote heart and the music of heart, and of course, we get the benefit of it too. But that's what we're into. We love the music that we did, and we care about it, and we try to represent it in a way that's going to make everybody proud, including ourselves.
That's awesome. The next interview we do, Steve, we've got to get you and Mike on the set together.
That's right.
Yeah, we're so you let Mike know that we're gonna line up an interview with you. Well, let's get the whole band together. You, your beautiful wife, and Mike. Let's get you guys all together, and
Okay.
we'll do it. We're gonna do like another interview here, and
Okay.
hopefully,
Sounds good.
I mean, we would love to see you maybe do a concert up this way too. So that'd be awesome if we could get you guys to come up here and do something on the East Coast. I mean, we would love to have that. That would be what an amazing show that would be. That would be off the chain.
Well, if somebody hires us, we'll go. That's just the way it works. And we would love to go up there. We'd love to play in the Buffalo area. We'd love to play across the water there in Toronto. We really love playing, and we do whatever we can to play, and we appreciate the audiences that come out and see us, and we do a spot on show that's exciting and fun to watch. So let's do it.
We're gonna make it happen. I mean, with Music Dreams USA Radio and all of our partners, we're gonna. I sincerely mean this. I mean, I would love to have you come down and meet you in person and hang out with you guys and get that rocking. So, and I'm sure you guys could probably send us some stuff so we give away on the radio, right? Can we get like some stuff to give away on the radio here?
Of course, yeah. I'll talk to Summer about that.
Yeah, we'd love to maybe give away some stuff on the air and stuff like that as well. But thank you so much, my friend. It's been an honor, and it's been a privilege to interview you today. And thank you for making music great. And thank you for all the memories. I mean, in all honesty, I could not wait to do this interview. I mean, when you think of heart, you think of amazing music, amazing musicians, and music, as you said earlier in our interview, right? Music that lasts a lifetime. You can listen to any heart song, and it's going to bring back memories. And thank you for those memories, and thank you for sharing them with us. And all the best as you move on. But this isn't the first or last interview with us. We're going to continue to support you, and we're going to continue to play your music and all that as well.
Thank you, Russell. Appreciate it.
You as well. You take care, my friend. Have a wonderful day. And on behalf of everyone here, thank you again for your time.
No problem. My pleasure.
All right, here we go.